So I won Ironman 70.3 Michigan for the second year in a row. Obviously, it's a lot more fun to do these race recaps when you had a really good day and when you got a win. So that was 1 year since my last win. I hadn't been able to pick one up since Michigan last year, so it was obviously a really great day for me. And let's just go through the whole race. So I guess before the race even, I was 4 weeks after Ironman Frankfurt, which obviously didn't go too great. We'll get more into the details of that in another quick update video coming soon. But I did recover well. I had a week totally off, and then I trained pretty hard for about 17 days before I started tapering a little late into Michigan, because with Kona coming up as the big goal, we didn't want to taper too much and sort of kept a little bit more of an Ironman focus in the training block. So I was interested to see how would that kind of feel for a half, and what kind of fitness would I have for the half. So drove to the race. It was a later travel than usual, got in on Friday, and it was pretty smooth. Just kind of went to the race site once, did the whole pro meeting and a quick video shoot with the feed, and got my stickers on my bike and did all those things all at once to keep it, you know, as little complications as possible. And I was feeling good and relaxed going into the race. So a race morning, a little bit of a later start for this one. I think it was 7:50 a.m., which I guess it's mostly due to just sort of the time of year. The sunrise is a bit later now, so can't start at 6 a.m. anymore. But yeah, I was just feeling really relaxed and ready to go, and I knew the competition was going to be kind of the feed guys mainly, with Ben and Justin probably swimming ahead of me and being able to work together on the bike. So really I thought it was going to be, will I be able to catch those guys on the bike? They're really strong, and they working together, it would be a tough ask for me to catch them. And those two guys stayed ahead of me in Mont Tremblant, along with Matthew Marquardt and Lionel Sanders. So the four of them in Tremblant were faster than me, and I figured with just two of them, and I'm feeling like I've upped my game with the bike recently, so I thought I could probably catch them. But the swim went pretty much as expected. Aside from the start was actually not very good. I think I didn't do enough swim warm up. I probably only did like 100 meters or something, or 200 meters max, and just felt really like chaotic right away. Like, not because there was too many guys or anything, but I didn't feel like I had control of my stroke too well, and I just wasn't swimming efficiently for the first couple hundred meters. So the first group immediately kind of got away. But I settled right into the chase pack, and then after about 200 meters, I started feeling like I was swimming well again, and I managed to be pretty efficient for the rest of the swim. I think I was always right on feet. I was on Nick's feet for the first probably about 500 meters, and then he started to just kind of like let a little bit of a gap open up, so I jumped across, and I stayed with that chase group for the rest of the swim. And I personally was about 125, I think, behind the front of like the main lead group. Greg Harper was a further minute ahead, but Ben and Justin were in that lead group, and then I knew Matt Sharp, Matt McElroy were going to be contenders, where if they're kind of in striking distance on the run, they can really run well. So I just kind of knew that the guys I swam with probably weren't going to be able to ride with me, so I didn't worry too much about tactics of like sprinting the transition or anything. So I kind of took the transition at a relatively comfortable pace, got on the bike, got my feet in, and just sort of like got right into my race plan of about 330 watts was like a high-end goal target power. But I know that's a power I can ride out for a long time without like really blowing myself up. So we rode out to the first U-turn, about 10K, and I actually did have a split from Justin Metzler right before the mount line. He said, "You're 130 down from the lead group." So that was good to know. And then getting to the first U-turn, you can kind of get a pretty close estimate of how far back you are. And it looked like it was like closer to a minute 50. So I had lost a few seconds, which wasn't totally shocking because I wasn't front loading it. And I knew those guys at the front were kind of trying to get in the group and probably work a little harder in the first little bit. So wasn't too disappointed. I could see that Ben and Justin were kind of separating themselves, and it was just going to be those two. So just kept doing my pace, came through the transition area again, or like near transition where there's all the fans and stuff at about 20K, and somebody said, oh, you're 35 seconds down or something from the chase pack, and I could already see them ahead, so I focused on chasing those guys down and caught them at about 25K. And that's where I put in my biggest surge of the race to try to kind of make sure I dropped those guys. It was probably a little bit too much, like a little bit more than I needed. It was 2 minutes. That was my peak 2 minute. I'm just looking at my laptop here, and it was 403 watts, peak 2 minute, and peak 5 minute was 368, which is probably right on threshold. I just really wanted to make sure those guys didn't go with me and have a chance to kind of hang on and really minimize the gap heading into the run. So I did drop those guys. That was Matt McElroy, Matt Sharp. I think Greg Harper was in there, and I forget who the other guy was, but there was 4 of them. So that was a good move. And then I settled back into my pace, and then it wasn't long after that, roughly around 45K, I actually started seeing Ben and Justin ahead, which was really encouraging. I didn't really think I would catch them as early as I did. Those guys are obviously really strong, and with 2 of them working together, I figured they'd be really hard to catch. But once I saw them, I knew I could catch them because I'd already made up most of it. So I worked pretty solid for the next while to catch them. I caught them at around 55K, maybe just before 60. And that was right kind of at the U-turn. I caught them the far U-turn. And so kind of had to decide, do I just sit in here and see what happens? Do I attack right away? And I decided to kind of stay and work with those guys for a bit to see how things were playing out. I didn't want to put in like a big surge or right away because I figured they would expect that. If I caught them, they would expect a surge. They'd be ready for it. They would respond, and then I might burn a match I didn't need to. So I kind of worked with them for a bit, but was kind of playing my cards a little conservatively because I definitely was pushing less power with them, even when I was on the front with them, than when I was chasing them. But I just got the sense that they were starting to get tired, and Justin put in a bit of a surge at like 73K, maybe to try to test probably Ben. I kind of went with him, and it wasn't really too hard to go with him. And then I figured, okay, now if I counterattack, I can maybe get away. So that's where I put in a pretty good move. It wasn't huge power, but it was probably a few minutes at like 350, 360. And then I took a quick glance over my shoulder, and they were like not right there. They were still a ways back. So I figured I would be good to just kind of push it in at my target power. So when I caught those guys, my average had just gotten up to about 330. And then when I attacked, it had dropped down to 322-ish, but then it crept up a little bit towards the end. In the end, the average power, I'm just looking at the data here, the average was 321, average speed 46.8, and it was 90.3 kilometers. And this is for an hour and 55 minutes and 47 seconds. So looks like my coach trimmed it down to pretty much right on what the actual official bike split was, 155.55. So I was really happy with the speed to power. So that bike and the setup I have now is obviously really dialed, and I'm excited for that. I do still think there's a couple things where there's room for improvement, so I'm gonna think about how I can do that. But overall, bike felt great. The new position, I've slid my seat quite a bit forward, and it's really opened up my hips and back. They're totally weren't sore in that race. Like normally my hips and back start to really ache, and it can impact my ability to push power in the later stage, even in a half. So the fact that played pretty much no impact on my ability to push power was huge. And even in the last, like I'll just highlight kind of the last 14 minutes and 14 seconds, and that's average 322. So right in the last part of the race, I was averaging the same as I did throughout the entire bike. So there was no fade, which was really great. So yeah, I got onto the run and I had about a 1 minute lead. And I knew that was going to be really good for me to be able to just pace my own race. I always run well when I can just run my pace and I'm not kind of battling with someone right away or chasing someone right away. And Ben it looks like he did close a few seconds on me in the first few K, and then I was trying to stay really relaxed and focus on making sure I can run well the second lap. And I did start to push the gap back out again, and by sort of the halfway point, it was back up over a minute, and then I could kind of see that if I just kept it strong until the last turnaround at about 16K, that I'd be able to probably take the win. And when I did get to that last turnaround at 16, I could see that he had dropped back quite a bit more. So that was a relief, because obviously, you know, the last 5Ks where you can really hurt yourself. And I think with him focusing for, you know, bigger races coming up, as well as me focusing for Kona, I think maybe for the rest of our seasons, it was good that we didn't totally have to battle the last couple K. But for sure, you know, I benefited from Ben not having his absolute best run. Like, nobody was expecting that in Michigan with Kona coming up, but we know Ben can pull off some like really great runs, like at 70.3 Worlds a couple years ago. So definitely, you know, that Ben would have been really, really tough to beat on the day, but he kept me honest all day, and I really did have to work hard on that run, except for maybe the last couple K. So really, you know, was able to enjoy that last few K, going through town, everybody kind of cheering, and you know, it's a small town, but the people really get behind the race, which makes it that much more fun to go back to a venue where the people just love it. And yeah, I enjoyed the finish, enjoyed, you know, talking with the guys after the race, and Justin and Ben sort of were definitely a little surprised, I think, that I caught them as quick as I did. But you always make a race plan, and that was honestly how my like A+ race plan was gonna be. That's how it played out. When that actually happens in a race, you got to really enjoy it, because it's few and far between that everything goes exactly as you would hope. But yeah, that's Michigan 70.3. Super happy to get the win there again. I'll probably be going back next year if they have a pro race, because I've never had the chance to try to do a three-peat. So that would be really cool. But next for me is Ironman 70.3 Augusta. Teammate Mark Dubrick is going to be there. We're going to probably be going head-to-head. There's a couple other super strong guys on the list, but who knows who's going to show up. But I'm really still focused for Kona. Like, I've got some pretty hard training in the next week before tapering down for Augusta, and we'll see how the taper goes and if I'm able to shed that fatigue. But I'm definitely going to go for trying to get another win in Augusta, so stay tuned for that. Also, quick note on just the RTS contingent at Michigan. Nick had a great day. He came in 10th, and it was his best 70.3 in a long time. Lisa led for a long time, ended up hanging on for 4th. Nicole ran her way up into 6th, had a good battle. Looks like was pretty close to 5th as well. So that was pretty exciting. Like the whole RTS Pro Squad was happy with their race. So it's good vibes when everybody can finish the race and share their war stories and actually be stoked with the results. But thanks for all the support, guys. Like I said, Augusta coming up next, some hard training, and a YouTube video coming up about where am I in the Pro Series and what are my plans for the rest of the year. So cheers, we'll see you next time.